Hi guys, John Carver. Welcome back to That's Life with John Carver, and this episode is number 289, and I'm calling this episode Assumptions versus Ground Truth. Assumptions versus Ground Truth. I think many people have done it, maybe you, where you've walked into an environment or read a story or seen video clips of other stories, and you've assumed certain things about what was happening in that environment or in that situation. In November of 2021, I walked into a business and I assumed a certain thing about this particular employee. So I assumed that this particular employee was negative and not very nice. But it took me just a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes or so, to realize that this person was in fact quite nice, quite compassionate, quite caring, quite helpful to what I needed at that moment. I think there's a lot of times when you walk into a situation and you maybe assume the worst about people instead of maybe assuming the best about people. In maybe a long time ago, in fact a long time ago, when I was still in high school in 1983, Air Canada Flight 143 had an accident. The long and short of that accident is that the people who were putting the fuel into the airplane misunderstood the measurements of the fuel. So they assumed what they were doing was correct when in fact it was completely inaccurate information. So I ask the question again, have you made assumptions about people that are not accurate and in fact sometimes are not fair to the people that you're judging at that moment? I've done it. I probably will do it again. And oftentimes we choose not to do the homework we need to do in order to confirm our biases. Sometimes our biases are really not based in facts at all. Assumptions, most of the time, if not all the time, fill in the blanks when people choose not to invest the time needed to find out the facts. So those blanks, those gaps that people use to fill in information, 99% of the time I found is inaccurate information, which then creates false assumptions. So how can you reduce the times that you create all these assumptions, these wrong assumptions? Well, I heard a former Assistant Secretary of Defense of Intelligence in the United States, his name's Chris Mellon, he used the term ground truth. Let me just share the definition of ground truth. It is to confirm or validate directly or indirectly, especially by direct observation on the ground rather than by interpretation of remotely obtained data. Ground truth. The longer I live, I realize that many people are just lazy. Many people just don't want to do the homework to figure out the facts of stuff that they have assumed is true. Just think about it for just a minute. You and I make assumptions every single day with very little information and certainly little facts to make those assumptions. We look at news segments, we overhear very small portions of conversations, and then we build an entire story around that little bit of information. This is why hearsay is not allowed in court proceedings, because it's not ground truth. An author by the name of Miguel Ruiz wrote, quote, "If others tell us something, we make assumptions. And if they don't tell us something, we make assumptions to fulfill our need to know or to replace the need to communicate." He ends with, "Even if we hear something we don't understand, we make assumptions about what it means and then believe the assumptions. We make all sorts of assumptions because we don't have the courage to ask questions." Again, we make assumptions because we don't have the courage to ask questions. So if you're really serious about discovering the facts, it's really important that you do your own homework, that you do your own research to find out the truth and the facts that matter to you. My name is John Carver. Thanks for watching.